Yo, what's up? What's up? This is um an update. This is an update of how my summer went. Just have some young lean on right now. Uh, because he kind of fits in with how this update is gonna go. Uh, and I'm making this at it's around just past 1 o'clock right now, which is normally way earlier than I do this thing, and that's because um, I'm starting school again tomorrow. And technically I'm not starting school as in classes. um, I'm there tomorrow for grade 9 day. So at my high school, when new, like, because you start my high school at grade 9, when they first come in they get kind of a day of orientation, to learn the school, meet new people, all that, because my high school is pretty big, and it can be kind of hard to navigate. uh, of course, I never got a grade 9 day because um, it was online COVID nonsense. But it's a cool idea. I think maybe I would have benefited from it. Um, but of course, one of those people is like, oh, who needs a grade 9 day? Just come to high school. Because it's unusual for like the Toronto area. Like most people I know who don't go to my school or schools within my district, like they're not doing that. They're just starting school tomorrow. Um, but yeah, we get grade 9 day, and I'm going there to help. Um, so yeah, I don't exactly know what I'm gonna do. I remember I was there last year. Uh, I started. There was like, because again, a big part of grade 9 day is like showing the grade 9s to around the school and all that. Um, and I remember my music teacher was there, and he's an interesting guy. He's a really interesting guy. I love him, but you know, I don't even know how to. I don't even think I have enough time in a full one of these videos to describe him. But yeah, he was like, "Oh, we should get a club fair going and set up a music stand." And I was there with one other music student, and we were like, "All right, why not?" And we did. And I remember we put out. He had from a couple years ago when the music program actually did stuff. Because this past year, for some reason, we weren't allowed to do anything because of COVID regulations, or it wasn't set up. It was kind of strange. But yeah, from a few past events, he had like shirts and stuff, like band shirts that said PHS, which is my high school, and it said PHS Music, or it said PHS Jazz or something. He had a few of them. We put them out on the table, and I vividly remember um, how interested people were in just seeing like a shirt. They were like, "Oh, what's a shirt? How can I get one of these if I join the club?" And I remember also there's a lot of parents too, because um, for some reason, actually, I don't really understand it, but for grade 9 day, many kids' parents will go with them for the first day of high school, which I find kind of weird, but I guess that's just a cultural thing, because again, my school is, and especially my area, is home to many cultures. Like, if you were to put it up there, like in the world, it's probably one of the most multicultural places in the world. Not in terms of just like not white people, but in terms of like variety. Like there isn't even really like a majority race or culture at my school, which is really interesting. Like I think it's really cool. Um, but yeah, there's different ways that parents grow up with their kids, I guess. And if that means going to school, who really cares? But yeah, again, a lot. I remember from last year, a big part of being there as like a grade 9 day helper or one of the older students is just meeting the parents and stuff. Um, but yeah, so I don't know. We'll see what happens tomorrow. My sister's starting at my high school, so yeah, that'll be cool, I guess. And I don't know. I don't know anyone who's going this year. Um, so I don't know. Hopefully I'll find someone I know. Or even if I don't really mind. Because I'll probably meet someone. But yeah, that's the story of why I'm voluntarily going to school a day earlier than I have to. And then the day after tomorrow, I'll start school for real and show up to my classes and all that. Of course, you know how it is. It's like the first week of school is just like an absolute shit show. Like you don't get anything done. It's full of meeting the teachers, syllabuses, rules, icebreakers, all that. We're not gonna learn crap for a week, but I guess I'm here for it. Again, I think it's kind of a big waste of time, but I guess you have to do it. But yeah, I mean, I got my class schedule at the end of last week. Got to see which classes I was getting. Once again, I don't know if this is just a my school thing, because we do have, I think we're over capacity in terms of students, but in terms of the courses I got, they weren't even close to the ones I signed up for. Which is kind of good, because they like, there were some changes that I actually do like, because originally I didn't take chemistry. I was considering maybe switching into chemistry. I was gonna wait, because I really do not like chemistry, especially high school chemistry. It is just it bores me out of my mind. I call it a pseudoscience in high school, because you're not even really learning science. You're learning observations that, like, most of the time aren't even true. But you know, it is what it is. I guess you gotta learn it before you learn more complicated stuff, but I would just rather learn that. But yeah, so I got that. Instead of, I signed up for a course called Earth and Space Science, which I never got. Which I was really looking forward to it. I thought it would have been a cool course, but they didn't give it to me. And then also I signed up for politics with my history teacher that I had in grade 10, who I really liked, and I didn't get that either. I got put in a course called Challenge and Change instead, which is like, it's a strange class. I don't even know how to describe it. It's a new one, and I remember a bunch of teachers and like other students and stuff were asking me if I was gonna take it, because like I don't know, like just the stuff I do, like the stuff I put out. It has to do with a lot of change, but this is run in like the humanities, like social, like not social study, like kind of social sciences area. Which means it's a lot of like societal, systemic, like intersectionality changes and all of that, which is not really my cup of tea, but I have it next semester anyway, so I don't know, I'm probably going to switch it, but I'm actually kind of happy that I got it, even though I didn't ask for it, because that means I get to be in the class for a few days, so I get to kind of see what's going on, because I like just the way course changes work. Like, you normally have to show up to the class even if you want to change out, and then you show up to the class for a few days to a couple weeks normally before they can finally change you into other class. So I'm actually kind of happy I get to see what the big deal is about, because it is a new course, and I saw it and I heard the name and I was like, oh yeah, that might be interesting. But then I saw the department and the areas behind it, and I thought, you know, maybe it's not as great as it sounds, but I guess we'll see. But yeah, that's next semester anyway. This semester I got English first period, and I got STEM English, which I'm really happy about. And if there was any course that they weren't going to give me that I was worried about not getting STEM English, because the way it works is throughout high school there's only like one class that you have to take every single year in high school, and that's an English class. Me being me, I'm not a big fan of Shakespeare. I don't like the way he writes. I don't like studying him. I don't like looking into things that, like, honestly, I can't take at face value, especially in writing. And I especially don't like the fact that Shakespeare maybe wasn't even a real dude, and they might have just been a bunch of random people. And the stories, yeah, like the stories are all right, but like they're nothing revolutionary. Like the main argument that I hear many people give for like why you should read Shakespeare is because you'll understand like nuance or the root to other stories which have kind of retold it. But the way I see it, like especially for the 21st century, like the retellings of it, they tell it much better than it was written beforehand. Like for this day and age, they tell it way better. Like unless you're going to be like writing them and retelling them, I don't think it makes sense to read them, or at least have to consistently read them. If you want to read one, that's fine. But like the fact that we have to take English every single year and read Shakespeare every single year, it's just utter nonsense. Especially when you look at the fact that we're reading Shakespeare, we're deciphering all of this like mumbo jumbo, trying to look for insight. But then a good amount of people, when they go through high school and graduate, they can't even write properly, or they can't write concisely. They have no idea what they're doing, and like I think, at least to me, that's just the signs of a failing curriculum. Like obviously the priorities are in the wrong place when it comes to English. But again, my high school in grade 12, they offer a STEM English course, which is no Shakespeare. That's really what they start off the description with. And it's literally meant to set you up for a career in STEM. So I'm guessing that they're going to focus on Latin a bit, and I'm guessing they're going to focus on concise writing, scientific writing, all of that. That would be my guess. I'm not exactly sure. I know the teacher who's doing it, though. I had him last year in grade 11, which also wasn't Shakespeare, luckily. It was, what was it called? It was Indigenous, I can't remember what the name of it was. It was FNMI, so First Nations, Métis, Inuit Studies. And the reason for that, and that was brand new that year too, that was meant to highlight, and I'm not exactly sure like the main priority or what they were trying to be intentional about when they made it, but it was kind of supposed to highlight the like indigenous, like the oppression of the indigenous peoples, you know. Why it's through an English course, I'm not exactly sure. Like I'm sure it would be better done with a history course. But you know, it is what it is. I found it pretty interesting. You know, because again, I live in Canada, I live in Ontario, and we have a terrible track record in terms of treating the indigenous peoples that were here before us. Like it's disgusting, honestly, but and it's made even worse by the fact that like many people don't know about it, and for many years the Canadian government has kind of hid it or tried to cover it up. But even when they made this course, it's still full of nonsense. Like, for example, we couldn't even, I'm pretty sure they were censoring words. Like, there was words in the curriculum and in all the coursework, and even the teacher that, like, they just wouldn't say. Like, they wouldn't say indigenous. Which is ridiculous. It's ridiculous. And also, despite the fact they were kind of tiptoeing around the issues that they face in the present day, it was highlighting all the discrepancies and injustices that happened in the past, but nothing about the current day, and they're still oppressed to this day. Like it's ridiculous, and it was, the way it was made was terrible, and they have a lot of work to do with it, but I think it was a very interesting insight. Like I actually liked it in terms of an English course. I think it was way better than reading Shakespeare. But yeah, but again, I know the teacher from it. He's actually probably the only English teacher I've ever liked. I just generally don't like English teachers. I don't like the way they are. Like, 'cause they seem almost like con men or con people to me. Like the way in which they act, it's like they're acting like there's a science to English when there isn't. Like I feel like many people, even English teachers, don't really understand like the art of good writing or good storytelling, and I don't necessarily understand it great either. But I think that I've written some things that were pretty well off, like they communicated points pretty well with some nuance. And I can't, like, again, I can't do it like, all the time, but there's not a formula to it. That's what I'll say. Like you have to kind of feel it out. And I just generally don't like the way English is taught. Like I feel like it's almost like a pyramid scheme, right? Like if you get a degree in English, like it's almost as worthless as like a piece of dirty toilet paper, because like you can only become an English teacher really, unless of course like many people can find jobs for what other than what their degree's for. But you know, if you want to use your degree, English teacher does. But yeah, I really liked this teacher. And I guess, and this is the part I find kind of weird about it, because almost nobody else does. Nobody likes this guy. Like they'll say he's a really hard marker, and all of that. Like they just don't like he's strict, and I appreciate that. I think, you know, there's a time and a place for teachers to be strict, and especially in this day and age, and kind of the culture of my school. Like I think strict teachers are pretty good, because at least the way I see it in this generation, like there isn't enough like responsibility on us almost. Like there's no accountability, right? Like, and I don't really know how to describe it, but I really like how he's like that. Like I've been on here before. I said I liked my math teacher before that was like that, even though I got like the worst mark I've ever gotten in a high school class in his class. But I liked the way he taught. And again, that's because I wasn't really paying attention. I was busy with other stuff. But yeah, kind of same thing with him. Like I got the worst mark I've ever gotten in an English class in his class. But I liked it way better, because first of all, I feel like I learned a lot more, and second of all, again, by comparison, my mark was higher than most people's, which is not how it usually is in English. But then also, like, in terms of the essay I wrote, like, I did the best on the essay that I've ever done in my life, and especially in Ontario schools, like, the essay is notoriously hard. Like, it makes up a good size of your mark. And teachers are generally ruthless in marking it, because again, there's large emphasis being placed on us being good writers. And most people aren't, because it's really hard, or at least for me, it's really hard for me to write something being intentional about what other people want to hear, if you know what I mean. Like, I can write something about a thought or an aphorism that I've had, right? I can put it out there, I can communicate it very well, put all the different points I want to put in. But if I'm writing for someone else in terms of stuff that they're looking to hear, I'm really, really bad at that. I'm really bad at that. But like you basically never have to write like that. Like even during the essay in school, you don't have to write like that. And I think why I did so well on my essay this year, like I got like 96 or something. I'm pretty sure last year I got like 74 on it. And again, like the average people get on this essay, like if you get an 80, it's good. Like I got 96, I was the highest in the class by far. I was the only one who got a 90. And the reason why, and I was not devoting the most time I could on school, especially at that point. I was off at Web Summit during that semester, I was at Elevate during that semester, and I was working on my new focus, making the hydrogen project during that semester. So I was very busy. And I wrote this essay in basically 3 hours. But again, I wrote it in the way that I know how to write stuff, from writing on Medium, from writing just to communicate ideas. I wrote it like that. I wrote my essay just like that. I didn't even care about what they were looking for, because I knew my English mark was pretty much already shot in that class. I was like, I'm just gonna write this real quick. I'm gonna make it my best writing possible, just to communicate my ideas, and it struck. And I think I learned a lot from that, because I was able to write it in a very little amount of time, first of all. But also it was just natural. It was just natural. There was no nonsense. I never pulled out a thesaurus and switched out random words to make them look more fancy or any of that crap. It was just an essay of me describing an idea. And and I'm pretty good at coming up with original ideas, right? Like I'm pretty sure my idea was even maybe somewhat controversial. I can't remember exactly what I wrote about, but it was something to do with mixed race individuals and how I think maybe I wrote that they were oppressed in new ways or something. I can't exactly remember. I spun it in some way. I don't necessarily know if I believe it, because again, I don't, like, my beliefs are changing around like race stuff and that all the time. Like, I think that's just natural. But I just wrote what made sense at the time, of my ideas of what makes sense in terms of like being a mixed race individual in the world. And it worked. And again, I don't know how much of that part, well, again, I remember when I got it, I thought, you know, I had a lot of imposter syndrome around it, because first of all, like, most people, again, because especially when you compare marks, most people don't expect a lot from me, especially in English class, and especially over the past few years, and especially with the people that, like, especially gifted kids in general, they compare marks all the time. So I felt kind of like an imposter in that way, because I was like, oh, what if it was just a dud or something? But then also because I was like one of the only people to participate in this class, because like everyone hates this guy. I was like, what if he just gave it to me because I participated in his class? But then, okay, but now that I say it out loud, it doesn't make sense, because he never marks easy on anyone. Like, he didn't mark easy on me after that, or before that, so why would he mark easy on me on like the hardest thing in the essay? But yeah, like, I'm impressed with what I did. I don't know if I'm necessarily proud, because like, I don't know, maybe I am. I'm not necessarily proud, because I did, like, it wasn't even really hard work for me, if you know what I'm saying. Like, it wasn't hard work as in I'm saying I should have spent more time on it, because I think if I spent more time on it, it would actually get worse. But I'm more proud of the fact that, like, my writing in general has come that far, because again, I just write a lot. Just for what I do, ideas and all that, I just write a lot. And I'm happy that kind of like translated into like a skill that could be useful, like just on a resume and all that, because I'm not very good at that. And this is kind of my main mindset almost going into this year of school. And I've been kind of grappling over whether I should commit to it or not, and that's playing the game, right? Like, I get on here and talk a lot about how messed up school is, how I don't really learn a lot. Most people don't. How much more I could learn from doing my own projects, and that, like, how I can actually do useful stuff doing projects, how I could get paid right now for doing that stuff. But then on the other hand, I was never really good at playing the game, even though I used to try a lot at the game. Like, I tried to be good at school. In grade 9 and like the first half of grade 10, and without a doubt, like, it's not natural for me, first of all, but then also I'm not very good because I've never really done it, and then also on the other hand, I just don't like it. Like, I would say, like, hands down, grade 9, first half of grade 10, which were years riddled with COVID, but were also years where I was really trying to do very well in high school. Like, by far the worst years of my life. Like, I don't know how to describe it. Like, I've tried to describe it before on here, but I could just not find happiness. Like, I don't even know what it was. I could not find happiness until I kind of found, like, my own interest in doing work for myself, like learning for myself. And then with that, like, I kind of got a glimpse of the real world, right? Like, winning huge hackathons, going speak on huge conference stages and all that. Like, I got a glimpse of the real world, and then part of me is like, I never want to go back to the game, because like, I've had so much success, like, not playing the game, like taking my own path, going an unconventional route, just doing stuff for me, has had like a secondary effect of people just respecting me and like wanting to hear my ideas and all that. And again, that's an unsure path, right? But I'm fine. Like, honestly, I'm fine with that. I actually really want to take that path. But then on the other hand, this as being my year of grade 12, it's kind of my last year to play the game. It is. And like I can't even deny that it does matter in terms of getting into a university. Um, I'm very intentional in the universities I want to go to. Like, I don't necessarily care about the prestige of the program, because the way I see it, like the outlook of my life post university, I don't think the degree is going to be very important, right? Like, especially after you get your first job, like no one cares which university you went to unless they went there too. Like, other than for networking purposes, it's not very useful. And especially undergraduate programs, most of them are the same. And also, like, I'm probably not going to be necessarily relying on a university degree to get a job. Like, I don't think that's going to be a limiting factor in jobs I'm trying to get, because like, I don't know, I really don't know how to describe it. Like, if you hear what I'm saying, and you say, oh no, you need a degree to get some kind of job in engineering, like, trust me, like, I understand where you're coming from, but like, it just doesn't work that way. Like, I've seen it. Stuff I'm actually interested in, new stuff especially, it just doesn't work that way. You have to know the right people. You have to be working on the right stuff. You can't just theoretically know the right stuff and have proved it on a piece of paper and get that. Unless I want a job in management consulting, in which that's kind of, you take it at face value. Like, you get poached from a top university and all that, but I don't want to do that. Most cool people I've met, like, many of them have had a past career in management consulting, and almost all of them hate it. In a way, I kind of feel like it's almost a right of way. Like, you learn a lot from it, and then you realize when you hate it, like, what you could actually be working on that's cool. So that's the only reason why I would ever go into it. Yeah, that's kind of my thoughts on it. But yeah, even some American universities I've started applying to, like Minerva, UNC, like the Moorhead Kane application, which is really what I want to get. I started working on that because, of course, American school start applications like god awfully early. And for reference, like, most Canadian schools, I think they were doing it January, February, March applications last year. So yeah, but that means that, like, I'm writing the Common App essay and all of that, and some supplemental questions, and of course, like, starting that kind of stuff in the summer where I was off doing my own stuff. I haven't got, like, as much done as I would have hoped, but I do think it is a good thing to work on, like, actually during the school year, because, like, again, my mindset would be in the best place possible if I'm going to play the game. But yeah, the Common App essay question I'm answering, because I didn't understand this before I looked it up, and I think most people outside of the US won't understand this, but Common App is like, it's like a platform, right? And many universities have students apply through it. So, like, if they ask for an essay in your application, Common App as a platform, they have, I think, like 6 or 7 different prompts that every university will ask for an essay from. So you can choose one, and then you can apply to, like, almost every university with that same essay in the US. It's not even close to how it works in Canada. But if you want to get into US school, you got to get that Common App essay done. And the one I'm doing it on is, when's a time where I don't exactly remember the wording, but what's the time where you've stood up to or challenged a belief, and what's resulted from it? And the way I see it, that can kind of be taken 2 different ways. Like, it can be, when's a time that you've challenged one of your own beliefs, or what's a time where you've challenged, like, a societal belief, right? It's not exactly clear. From some of the essays that I've read before that's already been written for that, because, like, as college, Common App is like college nonsense, right? Like, there's 1,000, like, oh, the perfect essays to get you into school examples out there. Like, most of them don't even really fall into a clear path as in, like, your own belief or societal belief. But I'm really banking hard on the societal belief part. Because I'm being honest, like, this transcripts I'm going to hand in, especially if they include last year's marks, they're not going to be great. They're not going to be great at all. And I'm really banking on the fact that, like, again, like, it's a societal belief and even a personal belief at times, again, from grade 9 and 10, that I have challenged for my whole life, which is that you need school for success, and that you need to be learning in school for success, and that you need to be learning for school for success, right? Like, again, when I say I've started learning for myself, that's way different than learning for school. And it's a change in simple wording, but it matters a lot, because first of all, I can learn way more for myself when I'm actually interested in something, working on a project, than learning for school on a bunch of stuff everybody's already figured out and everyone already knows. That's one thing, right? That's just theory. But then also, on the other hand, at least for me, I've kind of, like, I've not only have I proven it to myself, but I've surprised myself at every turn how powerful it is, how powerful a feature it is to be learning for yourself. Like, every single hackathon win, conference invitation, every single ounce of recognition I get for stuff I work on, I never expected, and I never optimized for, because again, I'm not doing it for that. It's a byproduct. It came naturally as a byproduct of just me doing me, and that never would have happened before, right? So in a way, I'm almost writing this essay, this societal belief I'm challenging, as in, I'm not playing the game. I'm not. I haven't played. I did play the game, grade 9 and 10. It went bad. I stopped playing the game, started doing me. It's been going great. It's been going great with a few explanations if you're a college admission officer. But again, that's really what I want to be, like, the overarching narrative of an application I hand into someone, as in, hey, these grades, they're nothing great, right? They don't set me apart. And even if I focus really hard on them and try to make me set myself apart, let's say I got like 95s in all classes, which maybe I could do, right? Maybe if I really put my mind to it, I think I could do that. Even then, it won't even really set me apart, because many kids can do that, and almost anyone can do that. But at least the grades I got now, I come by them honestly. Like, for the first part, like, obviously I don't cheat in class, at least in my school. Even among, like, some of the best test takers and the highest markers, like, cheating is it's huge, and it's a whole different problem, and it absolutely disgusts me. And also on the I never will go up and negotiate for a mark or try to get a teacher to change the mark after they've marked it. I just won't. And again, in my school, that's a big part of what people do to get good marks. It's not the biggest part, right? Like, obviously studying all day, that's the biggest part in what they do. But to get those last few percents, that's what they're doing. And I will have no part in it. Again, that's just the game. I disagree with it, because the way I see it, the overarching problem with this, and the overarching problem with why I don't even see value, and where I struggle to see value in the game, is that even if you get those high marks, again, like I said before, they won't set you apart, because there's thousands of kids who get 95s applying to these schools. So even if you get them, there's not even a surefire chance you're going to get into a good school. And that's because of grade inflation. And that's caused by all this extra nonsense and cheating and mark negotiating that goes on. It's causing the problems. It's like teachers being easy markers is causing those problems. It's making it harder for everyone, and it's making everything gets covered in a layer of nonsense because of it that we shouldn't have to do. So there's no way, like even if I did recognize value in the game, I'm never going to cheat, and I'm never going to go up and negotiate for marks, because that'll just make the problem worse for everyone that comes after me. I don't want someone like me, who's in my situation, who like I think could like actually go on and do some really cool stuff. I don't want them to have to like have this option where they have to like almost sell out to play the game and cheat and do all of that nonsense just to get ahead. I don't want like that. You shouldn't be forced to do that. So again, the societal belief that I'm telling you is that you don't have to do that. You don't even have to do it to be successful. Well, yeah, I guess we'll see what happens with that. Especially because in the Common App essay, I'm almost like daring them to let me in. But yeah, like that is like unapologetically me though. Like unapologetically me. Like there's no sugarcoating it. But yeah, to play the game or not. See, especially what I've kind of learned over this past summer is I didn't really have an internship. Like I wanted to intern with CAE. They could just never get it together. I'm thinking I'm going to actually have an internship like pretty soon over the school year with a 3D printing company called Mosaic that I just met. And I got a warm intro to the CEO from. So we'll see. Like I hope I get that. Again, I don't need it. But especially over the summer in terms of stuff you do, I was not playing the game at all. Like most people looking from the outside probably thought I was doing nothing. Which, like again, that's partially true. Like I spent a lot of summer recuperating, like catching up with friends, just enjoying life like as a teenager. But then on the other hand, like I was just doing like going deeper on stuff I'm interested in, and that doesn't necessarily yield results. But it's something I have to do sometime, right? But yeah, what I've kind of learned is that, and what I might have been missing before, is that there's a time and place for the game, right? Like there's a time and place to play it where you could benefit from it, like where you don't want to be stuck in a crappy situation because you didn't take part in it. But it's very hard to gauge when you should, almost. And this is how it kind of started. I went to one of the last TKS Innovate sessions in Toronto. I don't even remember why I was there, but I was like the only person who showed up. Like I think someone put out, one of the directors was like, oh, can we have like some alumni come or something? And I was like the only one who showed up. So I was basically just participating in it as if I was an Innovate. And Naveed, one of the founders of TKS, was over, and what they do in the last session is they played like what's your worst case scenario game, right? So they ask you like, what's your worst case scenario? And like they really try to get you to figure out what your actual worst case scenario is, not what you're scared of, right? Like lots of people are scared of not getting into university, but most people, especially after they finish Innovate, are definitely going to get into one. But yeah, like especially during that session, I realized that like I don't even really know what my worst case scenario is, because I just don't really think ahead like that. Almost like I've just stopped, because like I used to view that as part of the game, but now I kind of think that it isn't, or even if it is, it's a way to gauge how much you should care about the game, almost. Because like what I realized is that my worst case scenario is pretty good. Like whatever it ends up being, like there's many different scenarios. Like it's pretty good, right? But like, and my worst case scenario is literally like if I didn't play the game and if everything I've done goes wrong and I get recognition for nothing, I'm still pretty well off, right? And that's not even banking off the fact that, you know, some crazy stuff could happen to me that I don't know about yet. But what I kind of realize is that, especially because I'm banking off most of that, like playing the game can only better my worst case scenario. Like it will only better your worst case scenario, if you know what I'm saying. Like if you play the game very well and you have an almost guaranteed shot at getting into a good university, that betters your worst case scenario from like not getting into one at all or going to a bad one, right? It betters your worst case scenario of getting a bad job. Like instead, maybe you'll get like a medium job, right? If you know what I'm saying. So it's very hard. at least the way I see it, it's very hard for me to get value from playing the game. Like, I'm not going to better my best case scenario from it. Maybe I'll better my worst case scenario, but I guess I really have to decide how bad my worst case scenario is, like if I actually want to better it, because I think it drops off exponentially to a point. Like, I don't think me playing the game more will benefit me as much as someone who isn't in my situation will. Like, me playing the game more this year won't benefit me as much as someone who didn't do anything over the past few years, like just played video games. So at that point, is it even worth it, or should I stay the path and continue growing on my own? That's what I'm really trying to decide. But I guess I should make up my mind, because I got English, I got design tech, which is like CAD and 3D printing and all that. Like, I know the teacher for that too. But I got math and physics, and math and physics are, like, at least for me, big game courses, because like, especially for math, like, you basically have to study or else you're not good at it. Like, even if you understand it, you have to study to get it down, to do it fast enough on the test and all that, right? And, you know, I guess that's understandable. It is what it is. But yeah, I do recognize the fact that I'm probably not going to get as much done this year as maybe I would have. Like, I think I'll get maybe as much done in terms of projects and stuff as last year. Like, I'm gonna make that a goal of mine, just to do as much as last year. But I don't think it'll get much better, because first of all, like, I have university admissions, and maybe I'll be playing a game more or any of that, right? Like, that's obviously going to take up time. But then also just being out of TKS, like, it's obviously going to be a hard learning curve to, like, keep the course and all that. And I think at least the way the summer's been going, like, I've been doing a decent job at that. But yeah, I can't deny that having that kind of structure was good. But yeah, that kind of puts me in store for a pretty weird year. I almost feel like I shouldn't be going back to high school. Like, I don't know. Like a lot of my friends from TKS graduated, they went to university and all that. A lot of my friends in school did, and then especially a lot of my classmates in my last semester last year, I was in one grade 12 class and one grade 12 split class with grade 12 students, well, majority grade 12 students. And of course a lot of them left, so I almost felt like it was my last year, my last, like, senior spring and all that. But, and especially to be freed from, like, the bounds that were holding me back, and to just do my own thing for the summer and be free and, like, spread my wings, feels weird to be going back. I'm kind of excited, you know, in a way. Also with, like, regarding the game, I almost feel like I have, like, more to prove. Like, I feel like I could prove more to a lot of people, and even if it's not what's best for me, like, I could do that. Like, really impress a lot of my teachers and my parents and all that, but I have to be really intentional about what's best for me, in terms of my life path and growth and all that. And I don't know if that's it, but if I need to, I feel like I could bank off of that, almost like competition and drive and all that, just to do well. Which I don't really like, but I guess what I'm saying, if I need to play the game for a year, I feel like I can. And I feel like I can do a decent job at it. But I really don't want to. Super duper don't want to. But, you know, I guess that's how it is. And a large part of this kind of, like, whole, like, game theory and all that was from some students I met from, it's called the Masterson Foundation, and they're, like, kind of like a genius grant almost, from Japan for, like, youth. So, like, any age up to 25, basically, like, you can apply to it, and you're part of this, like, cool community of geniuses and all that. And a lot of them came over from Japan to Toronto, and TKS has a relationship with them. So they got some TKS alumni and students to show up to kind of meet them and show them around Toronto and all that. And naturally, I'm there. But I met these kids who were supposed to be like geniuses, right? Like I met 13-year-old who finished his PhD. I met an 8-year-old who just graduated high school and all that. But what I realized is that it's undeniable that they're smart and all that, but like they basically don't know how to use it, right? Like they're so smart, but like so, I don't know how to describe it. Like they're so socially unaware and like awkward, and like their work ethic just isn't there to the point where it doesn't even matter anymore. Right? And that's what I've kind of really realized with like my growth over the past few years. It wasn't even that I got like necessarily a lot smarter in general. Like of course in a few different areas I dove into, I got way smarter. But it's more that I just learned how to use what I know very well. And that's what I've realized, that even if you're the best at the game, which these kids were, again, PhD when you're 13 is crazy. Even if you're best at the game, you won't learn that. And you won't be able to use those skills to make an impact. And that is the big thing for me. And that the game will only take you so far. I think I have a lot of the other side of it, and not being in like having the work ethic and all that, and the skills, social skills, networking, all that, to get stuff done with what I do know. But I did realize that there was a lot to be gained from the game, but even then it wasn't great. It wasn't a great outlook for even the best players of the game, and even the TKS directors told us about that. They're like, hey, like we met these kids, like we were in a session with them, right? And even in most sessions, like TKS director will roast the hell out of you if you're not paying attention, or if you're not answering, or if you're just being not with it and all that, like not giving it your best, trying to make an impact. And they even told us like, hey, like obviously these kids aren't great at it. Yeah, like lots of them might join TKS and get good at it. And they're gonna get, they said they're gonna get a lot of recognition over you in the next couple of years. But you have to realize that you're optimized for the long run, and that you'll probably be way better off than almost all of them, which was really eye-opening. And again, kind of gave me more perspective into the game. Like, it gave me more arguments to play it, and it gave me more arguments not to. Which I'm glad I got, because I think I can really make an informed decision as to whether or not I should. But yeah, I don't know when I'm going to decide that. Yeah. Summer's ending and all that. Like, I didn't really talk a lot about how my summer went, or what the summer was like in general for me. I think I might do that when it actually ends, like when the season ends and it turns to fall. I might hop on a video, because I don't necessarily think my mindset will change a lot in the like first few weeks of school, especially because we're not doing a lot of work. But I guess we'll see how it's changed, and what my retrospective on how it was is like afterwards. But yeah. Here's to figuring it out almost. Getting back into the routine of just getting consistent work done. And yeah, hopefully I can have a good school year and all that, and have fun, learn some cool stuff, make some cool projects, stay the course. Unfortunately, not exponentially grow as I would like to, but you know, I feel like if I stay the course, I can do that in the years afterwards, which is sucky, but it is what it is. Again, I started this off with Young and Lean. Like, I have the yellow up there, which is like the color of his Ivy album. And yeah, he's kind of like almost like an embodiment of, I feel like, how my mindset has changed over the summer. Like, if you don't know Young Lean, like, he's a Swedish, and he's Swedish. He's like a Swedish white guy, and he's one of the first mumble rappers like mumble rap, emotional rap, all that. He was one of the first ones to do it, and he started off in like 2012, which was like years ahead of his time. So most of the stuff this guy does is like he sets the trend for what the industry does, and he's like your rapper's favorite rapper almost, right? But for that reason, he's kind of hard to get into, right? Like he's almost an acquired taste. Like you have to listen to him for long enough to kind of understand it, and that's kind of what happened to me. Like I discovered him like nearly like over half a year ago, way over half a year ago. Like at the end of 2022, I discovered him, and I found my first few couple songs that I liked, and I had those on my playlist, and I kept bumping them, right? But I would venture off into these other songs I didn't like, and I'd be like, oh no, I don't get that. But this summer, like just from listening to those songs and trying to like, I was like, oh, I want to hear more from him. Like, what if I started liking these songs? And I started listening to more and more. Like I started liking it more and more. I started understanding it more and more, and that's really interesting. I found it like it was really just interesting like perspective on like how music is for me. But yeah, and like how people grow in music, and like how crazy ahead of his time Young Lean is, and like I really like his messages and all that. I think he's a really cool guy, and he really understands how the game works, the music game, not the game I've been talking about. But yeah, probably be back on here soon with some more updates. Hopefully I get that Mosaic internship, and yeah, see you soon.